I personally actually think it's extremely important to create these spaces of talking to each other, because we live along different, research and policy making lives along different rhythms and timelines and how fast things have to move, etc., etc. And so it's important to kind of create a space where you can figure out what your expectations are, what your life cycles are, and how one could better align what policy is doing and what research needs as a supportive infrastructure. So I think that's just really important, but it's also about when we speak to each other, very often we use different kinds of languages that are either used within policy making and then we read it differently or understand it differently, and vice versa. And so I think it's important to have these kind of interactive moments where one can quite openly question if certain terminologies are the right one, if they represent well what we do, etc., etc. Because it's also, there's an outside to both of us, to policy making and to research. And it's not that policy making is out in society. People do not understand neither exactly what policy making is in its reality of having to work, etc. And so it's important to think of both parts as being part of a wider environment, and to really think how this better positioning of the two together will help us also to better embed what we're doing in wider societal environments, be it towards industry, be it towards other NGOs or other societal actors. I mean, to talk about difficulties, call them challenges or failures or hurdles or whatever, I think it's very important to be more open about that, because hiding behind ways of concealing that things are not as perfect as they are kind of creates expectations that can never be met. So we cannot win in the end of the day. So I think openly addressing these things is really important. And I think it's important for funding agencies and funding councils, whatever. It's essential to see what kinds of things worry researchers, what kinds of things they would like to achieve but have troubles to achieve it, and to kind of get a sense of the realities of research out there. Because once you get away from the everyday life of research, you might have a more kind of idealized vision of how things are going, and I think it's important to do these reality checks and to kind of be able to openly address these kinds of questions. In that sense, I find it extremely important and a very nice event in that sense.